It's a snow day. The high today is 0, I think, and it's cold out there, but the sun's shining and the snow is sparkling. And I miss all you at school, all my kids. And so I thought I'd read you another story today. This one is a Welsh fairy tale. And there's some Welsh words in there that I don't know how to pronounce, so excuse me if I bungle it, if you know Welsh. The youth who wanted some fun. Far up among the mountains in Wales there lies a little hollow called the Elves' Dell, where a young man named Tudur ap Enion used to pasture his master's sheep. One summer night Tudur was returning to the lowlands with his flock when he began to loiter along and grumble to himself. "Tending sheep," he grumbled, "such stupid business this is. Would a gay lad like me might have a little fun." Then suddenly he saw, perched near him on a stone, a little man in moss breeches with a fiddle under his arm. His coat was made of birch leaves, he wore a gorse flower for a cap, and his feet were shod with beetles' wings. As Tudur stared open-mouthed at the little man, the latter took up his fiddle, which was nothing more than a stringed wooden spoon, and ran his fingers across it. "Nostoc, Nostoc," said the little man, which means in English, "Good evening to you." "Good evening to you." "Ac I Chwythan," replied Tudur, which is, being interpreted, the same to you. "You are fond of dancing, Tudur," went on the little man. "Why do anything so stupid as to tend sheep? Tarry here a while, and you shall see some of the best dancers in Wales. I," he swelled out his chest as he spoke, "I am their musician." "But if you are a musician, where is your harp?" asked Tudur, loitering still more slowly. "No Welshman can dance unless someone plays on the harp." "Harp!" cried the little man scornfully. "I can make people dance with my fiddle better than any harper." Then he leered with a smile so ugly that Tudur shivered for a moment. But he was very curious about that spoon. So he asked, "Is that a fiddle, that stringed wooden spoon you have in your hand?" For answer the little man nodded and started to play. At that Tudur saw hundreds of pretty little sprites come tripping out through the dusk, some dressed in white, some in blue, and some wearing glow-worms for torches. So lightly did they step that not a blade of grass nor any flower was crushed beneath their weight, and they all made curtsies to Tudur. Then Tudur forgot that creepy feeling the little man had given him. Doffing his cap, he bowed politely to each of the little sprites. Presently the little minstrel drew his bow across the strings of his instrument, and the music he produced seemed to Tudur so enchanting that he turned farther and farther away from his sheep and listened open-mouthed. At sound of the sweet melody, the fairies, if fairies they were, ranged themselves in groups and began to dance. Round and round they went as the bow of the little minstrel flew. All the dancing Tudur had ever seen could not compare to this. His feet began to keep time to the music. He longed to step into the magic circle. Yet there was something in his breast that warned him away from it, and he heard his sheep calling him to his duties down the mountain. "Come, Tudur, join in the dance and make merry," the little man cried. Tudur's feet beat a faster tattoo, yet he still gave ear to the call of his sheep. "Nay, nay," he said, "dance on, dance, my little beauties, dance on. I take my sheep down the mountain." Nevertheless, he did not go, he did not even turn away. He lingered and yielded himself more and more to the entertainment before him. The music became faster, and the dance grew wilder and wilder. "Come, Tudur, join in the dance and make merry," the little man cried again. Tooter began to sway with his whole body in time to the rhythm. He swayed and he swayed, while the bleating of his sheep sounded more and more faintly in the distance. "Come, Tooter, join in the dance and make merry," the little man cried a third time, with a sweep of his bow across the strings that seemed to the shepherd sweeter than anything he'd ever heard in all of his life before. Then Tooter flung all thought of his sheep to the winds. With a bound he threw himself into the midst of the circle. Hurling his cap in the air, he cried, "Now for it! Play away, fiddler, play away!" And he gave himself wholly up to the dance. But what a change! No sooner was he within the ring that had seemed so pleasant when he stood looking on from without, than in a twinkling all was altered. The gorse blossom cap vanished from the minstrel's head. A pair of goat's horns branched out instead, and his face became as black as soot. The creatures that a moment before he had thought so beautiful now became ugly goats and dogs, while some took the shape of foxes and cats. And in the midst of these Tooter went on dancing. At length the motion grew so furious that Tooter could not make out the forms of the dancers at all. They whirled round and round him so rapidly that they looked like a wheel of fire. And still he flung himself out and waved his arms in time to their music. How gladly he would have torn himself away, but it seemed to him that he could not. In the midst of the ugly company he had chosen, he was forced to dance on and on and on. Next morning Tooter's master went up the mountain to see what had become of his sheep and his shepherd. He found the flock safe and sound, halfway down to the valley, but was astonished to see Tooter spinning around like a mad in the midst of the hollow all by himself. "What in the world is the silly lad doing?" he cried. "Oh, master, master, stop me!" shouted Tooter. "Stop yourself," replied the master. "In the name of heaven, stop yourself! Stop yourself!" At these words Tooter suddenly stopped and blinked his eyes. There was no ugly circle about him. There was only the morning sunlight, the rocky crags above, and the sheep awaiting his tendance on the green, flower-sprinkled mountain pastures. "Tooter ap Einion, let me not find you deserting your sheep again," cried his master. Tooter hung his head and went foolishly back to his charges. The end.